2, 1. Woo! It's always Phil starting us off here. All right, folks. So thank you for joining us here today. We've got another great episode with HELPtalk. You've got Phil Vetrano up here, co-founder of Hug the Logo, HELPipedia, and myself, Loralyn Mears, the other co-founder of HELPipedia, which is all focused on youth development. And we're excited today to have a special guest, Elaine Feigenbaum. And why? Well, we love every guest, of course, but today's show is all about bullying. And we've seen the statistics, right? They are horrific. 1 in 4 kids says that they are being bullied. 50%, okay, 48%, but who's counting, of all bullying incidents occur in the school. So it's beyond your power, even as a parent. What can you do in the school? It's terrible. And only 46% of kids tell a teacher or an adult or a parent that they're being bullied. So kids are being bullied into silence. And this just has to stop. Elaine, welcome to the show. And why don't you tell folks a little bit about what you do?
Thank you, Loralyn. Thank you, Phil, for inviting me on to the show. Well, I am an early intervention preschool and school age special educator. I also have my own agency. I've been the president of Education Relief for 20 years. I founded it in June of 2004. I have, over 3 decades worth of special education teaching, as well as mentorship, parent training, and consultant teacher as well. I'm also the HELPipedia chapter, special needs chapter leader. So thank you. So I am part of HELPipedia as well. And I am on the board of Layla's Gift, which is a non-for-profit that they have milestone and birthday parties for children from 3 to 21 who have disabilities, special needs. And I'm glad to be a part of that as well.
Well, you do so much in the area of advocacy. And I know I asked that you are comfortable with us sharing that you do have a child who has experienced bullying, some challenges around learning, and it's just reinforced your advocacy to make it even stronger. And that's why we're really excited to get into this with you, to walk us through 7 questions, 7 ways to think about bullying so that it raises all of our collective awareness, because it has to stop.
I agree. Okay, so let me start with number 1. What types of bullying do you think are most common and why?
Well, I know cyberbullying has to be on the rise because kids are on social media, 8, 9, 10 hours a day doom scrolling?
Oh, of course. There's cyberbullying, there's social bullying, there's verbal bullying, physical bullying, but verbal bullying, they say, which is name calling, insults, teasing, is the most common at 79% of bullying incidents.
Wow.
Social bullying, spreading rumors, exclusion, is the second most common at 50%. Physical bullying occurs in about 29% of cases.
That's higher than I thought. So 1 in 3 kids is getting hit and hurt, not just emotionally, but physically.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like you said, cyberbullying accounts for about 25% of bullying.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see if the 29% of the physical bullying is the volume compared to all the reported bullying, right? So if every exchange that kids are making, and there's they're name calling or being really mean to their other and I don't know if the friends thing is part of bullying or not. So I don't know the definition of bullying as it relates to, is it always name calling? I don't know, because I think generally kids just make fun of each other for laughs and fun. And so I don't know if that's classified as bullying. Maybe you could answer that question, Elaine.
It depends on the child, really, because every individual child takes, like if there's someone thinks, oh, they're just being silly or it's a joke, and the other child who's being made fun of or is not taking it that way, to them it could be bullying. It's really, it depends on the child's perspective. There are some kids that will let things roll off their shoulders, and it doesn't bother them when someone is just kind of teasing. But it's an individual preference. Well, not preference, but it's an individual response to bullying, or to what they deem as bullying.
All right, so then that means that all the name calling or social media, that it depends on whether it's reported or not in this 100 percentile thing. Because if it's not reported, then it's not going to be included in this percentage. So, which is interesting to hear, because a lot of kids, I know I was a kid, I never reported any bullying to an adult. So I would never have been in those percentages. I was actually bullied.
Right. I mean, I myself was bullied growing up as well, and even as an adult. So I know firsthand what it's like and what it feels like, and it's not something that
I think some dog is getting bullied.
It's not something that we can really put in the past. It stays with you. It really does. The other most common type of bullying is the verbal and social bullying, which verbal and social bullying may be most common because they're easier to engage in discreetly and don't leave visible evidence.
Right.
So that was the other one.
And I was going to come back to that because I don't know anyone who wasn't bullied. I was bullied. I was the uncool nerd, the science geek and all of the rest of that. And people didn't like me for that. I was socially excluded, all of this stuff, awkward, blah, blah, blah. Even to this day, there's places and stuff where I go where I feel, wow, I'm definitely being judged. And there's some commentary going on. I'm like, wow,
right.
Are we doing this? It's 2024. Like we're 50. Like,
Mm-hmm.
really? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. And a question around that is, why is it that kids seem to be more sensitive and more upset by bullying, and it's more of an issue now, whereas in our day, you just kind of sucked it up? What's shifted? Give us that context to understand why this has become the major issue that it is today, and rightly so, because it's impacting millions of children and adults.
Well, of course. I think the biggest change is that there's social media, and a lot of it is being seen. I mean, you're seeing your friends or your so-called friends, and they're excluding you from something where you had really thought you'd be invited to, and so once you're excluded, it's almost like you're like taboo in a way. I mean, you're made to feel like you're not a part of that group. So the exclusion, I think, is very difficult to really understand. Like, why me? Why am I the one being excluded? What did I do wrong? And you're thinking to yourself, because you're seeing this on social media, and I feel like that's something that a lot of these kids are saying to themselves. Why me? Oh,
yeah,
we fell.
Yeah, so from a social media perspective, it's easy to be cruel outside behind the screen and just typing, and then they could hit more kids too. That's the sad part. And then they could send a picture to an entire class that makes fun of you, and you could be tormented and have trauma for the rest of your life because of one incident. And it's really sad that we're living in this world of where there's everything could be public, even if you don't want it to be.
That's right. It is. I think social media is the scourge of society. I really, really do. I wish we could unwind it and get rid of it, but there we go. That said, I do think the comments that you're making here around bullying and how it's very impactful in a negative way to kids through social media is because you're already looking at half of the population considers themselves lonely or very lonely, and being excluded from social media. Oh, this event, and you've got mean girls that went to the party and this and that, and you didn't, just feeds into that doomsday scrolling that all these kids are doing, and adults going through their social media. And it's just, well, it's horrific. But let's move on in the show. Talk to us about the second question now. So we've learned about the different types of bullying and how prevalent each is. Even physical bullying is still up there, cyberbullying and social, but boy, oh boy, just those verbal assaults, right? They just don't stop. All right, Elaine, what do you got for us next?
How do you think bullying affects those who experience it? You know, there are a lot of effects, and I've listed them, but increased risk of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem, academic difficulties and lower test scores, social isolation and difficulty forming relationships, physical health issues like headaches and sleep problems, high risk of suicidal thoughts and behaviors, and long-term mental health impacting into adulthood. So there are many, very strong, serious effects of bullying on children. And, if you're bullied as a child, that you're more likely even to be bullied as an adult. So it happens.
And you're right. A point you made earlier in our show is that it sticks with you. I have someone who I've been very close to my whole life, and she's even slightly older than me, and she still talks about the bullying that she received in high school and how it altered her trajectory and her path in this life because it was so severe. So it's not like a generation or two generations later that it's gotten any nicer or less prevalent or less impactful.
Right. No, I agree. It's just, you're just seeing it more because of the social media, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think we've never really addressed the root cause of the problem and never had solutions around it so that parents could learn from their experience if it was a great program and or a culture that they were in schools to learn how to deal with the bullying. So there's a lack of education there, and even the impacts, knowing the impacts of what you just shared with us. If parents knew and understood the severity of up to suicide, they would take a closer look at what are the steps to make sure that your kid's not the bully, as well as what to do and to help prevent and reduce bullying, and just how to deal with it, like how to cope with in my old world they said sticks and stones. I never hear that expression again with kids, and I think parents should have just dismissed that concept of that. The words that people are using, they could say anything they want. Does it slip off of you, or do you take it specifically personally? And if you're not prepared for that, your kid doesn't know how to cope with that because you treat them well in the home, and now they're getting abused, and this is all new for them.
Right. Agreed. And
it's prevalent. You look at the statistics, right? 1 in 6 kids is considering suicide largely because they are being bullied, and that's just not okay. All right, Elaine, why don't we get to your third question here and starting to work towards a solution? What measures can be taken to reduce bullying?
All right, well, that's the third question. What measures do you think would be most effective in reducing bullying? So, clear school policies with consistent enforcement, social emotional learning programs to build empathy, encouraging bystanders to intervene and report bullying instead of being, a bystander being an upstander, creating a positive school climate that doesn't tolerate bullying. And I know a lot of schools will say 0 tolerance for bullying, and you can fill out a DASA and hope for the best, but ultimately I personally have not seen follow through with that. Increased adult supervision in bullying hotspots, and teaching digital citizenship to prevent cyberbullying. So letting them know what they, if you're teaching about that, like in the classes, I mean, that's something that they should be learning in school to offset this whole cyberbullying, which is not easy to do. It's, you really have to be monitoring, everything that they're doing.
A recent report showed that the top 3 countries for cyberbullying in teenagers, which is almost 4 to 5 to 1 of girls versus guys, India, Sweden, and the US have the 3 global worst rates of cyberbullying amongst teens. And I know that the US is very slow to put in digital citizenship programs. Sweden is starting to do more of this, and India focuses on soft skills, but needs to go deeper to get into the whole thing around being a good digital citizen. Long way to go.
Agreed. It is.
Yeah. So, in your experience, from a consequences perspective, what's impactful for some processes or policies at schools that really are impactful, that really curb bullying?
I really haven't seen much in the way of being impactful. I know when it happened with my daughter, I filled out a DASA. The school had filled out a DASA, and they don't really tell you what kind of consequences these children have. But the bullying didn't stop from them. It continued. She was in middle school at the time and I had filled that out. And then when the same thing happened in high school, and I took her out of the high school and put her in an alternative setting because it was just more beneficial for her.
And it's a shame that parents and their children have to go through such measures as disruptive as they are to switch schools. I know of cases even where people have switched states just to try to get away, start fresh. It's just, it's got to stop. All right, Elaine, keep us going here. What do we got? Next question.
Do you believe that cyberbullying is as serious as in-person bullying? Why or why not? And cyberbullying can be just as serious, if not more so, because it can occur 24/7 and follow victims everywhere. There is a larger potential audience online, as we know. Anonymity may make bullying bolder and less empathetic. It's harder for adults to detect and intervene, and digital content can be permanent and continuously shared. So those are major factors in cyberbullying.
Yeah, it's almost unlimited. I mean, that's what we're facing, is unlimited interactions with anybody who could be doing this to anyone, even if another country could be interacting with your son or daughter and abusing them in some way and somehow, harassing them and bullying them. So it's really sad, because this didn't happen before this. Before the internet, there was no connection between a 30-year-old, 20-year-old with 8-year-olds. And now we're all connected on platforms.
Exactly. It's scary. It's really scary. And you have to, really be sure that your children are as aware, because, they don't know who they're talking to. And they could say, oh, I'm talking to someone, in the next town over on social media, on Snapchat or whatever. And you're like, well, how do you know that this is, well, my daughter had said, well, we video chatted. So, but you still don't know who this person is.
No.
It's hard. It's hard for these kids to understand that, it's not safe out there. It really isn't.
And this era of deep fakes and AI and your avatar and everybody feeling emboldened because they can hide behind, whatever system that they've put in place to detach them from the namesake of who they are, their IP address, all of this other stuff, and pretending the videos like, yeah, I'm your friend. I live exactly in the same town or next town over. Meanwhile, there's some predator, right, who's trying to do nefarious things with young children. And how do you intervene, right, as a parent? What kind of social media monitoring do you do? Is it daily that you need to be on top of this with your children? How do you get in there?
You do. You really have to be on top of them daily, and really be looking out for them, because you don't know. You just don't know who they're really talking to. So, but I will get to number 5. I know I sort of felt this is the main reason. Why do people bully others? And you think of the different things that people would say, and insecurity and desire for control and power, lack of empathy or understanding of the impact, learned behavior from family or other peers, attention seeking, jealousy or resentment towards victims, or underlying mental health issues or trauma. So there are many reasons why people are, these kids or adults are bullying others. They don't see that impact. And sometimes they don't even realize that they're bullying.
They don't care. It's been normalized.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I'm not going to go political. We're not going to do that. But at the highest levels of what we see from government officials to influencers to all kinds of other stuff, we see negative examples, a certain kind of rhetoric, usage of language, which is offensive to some, to many, and the repeated use of it. People just start to say, well, I guess like it's okay because they do it and they're famous, and so I can do it.
Right.
Yeah, it definitely starts with our leaders as being role models. So as soon as it's us versus them and conflict, right? Conflict gets reported. That's, in media, that's all we want to see or read or hear about, because it gets the most ratings. And ratings are important for the media to watch me. And they're going to show all the conflicts that are happening in this world. And when you see, people butting heads, and they're not even in the same room. This guy's in California abusing the other guy in New York. This guy's in Texas who's abusing the other guy. And again, it's the leadership here. It's not about working together. It's about slamming and gas flaming each other, and which is the saddest thing. And of course, in the family home, is it us versus them? Or am I, if I have lots of negative comments for a specific person, I'm showing my true colors of how I feel about this person. But am I working this out? And that's that could be where we're going on this, is how do we make this better? So question number 6.
What can bystanders do? So they can speak up and tell the bully to stop. You would think that would be easy, but a lot of people don't want to get involved. Support and befriend the victim. Report bullying to a trusted adult. Redirect the attention away from bullying situations. Refuse to participate or encourage bullying. And create an inclusive environment that doesn't tolerate bullying. Those are the main things that bystanders can do.
Oh yeah, exactly. Get in there. And it's not that every case involves a risk to personal safety if you're standing up for the bully. You can do anything from recording it to running to get a teacher to doing whatever and saying, hey, this is going on, and trying to stop it. But it's a lot. It's a lot to ask of anyone. I think, again, if we roll it back, it's about being kind. What if that was you? Right.
It's not easy to put yourself in someone else's shoes. It really isn't. But here, What should you do if you're being bullied? Tell a trusted adult like a parent, a teacher, or a counselor. Keep a record of bullying incidents. Stay calm and don't retaliate, which I know is not easy to do.
Right? You want to? Fight back.
Use confident body language if possible. Spend time with your supportive friends. Block cyber bullies and save your evidence. And remember, it's not your fault and you don't deserve it.
No. Absolutely not. So, Elaine, I think these were my turn. Wonderful tips to get us going here, and really appreciate you sharing with us. Again, this is Elaine Feigenbaum. Sorry, I'm distracted with the dog.
It happens.
Of Education Relief, who is an expert on bullying and sharing her wisdom with us today. Thank you so much, Elaine. Thank you, Phil.
You're very welcome.
See you guys next week.